One of the best things about Star Wars Jedi Survivor is coming across hidden secrets and noticing awesome Easter egg references to the Star Wars series that the developers have placed throughout the game. So I'm going to take you through a selection of some of the best ones that we've found so far, which you'll hopefully enjoy. That said, there will be story spoilers in this video, just as a heads up, and cheers to EA for the review code. And let's start with one of the best Easter eggs I think I've ever seen in a video game, and that's a selection of B1 droids painting a wampa in a very seductive pose. And I think this is a nod to the Titanic film where Rose asked Jack to draw her like one of his French girls. Now, to see it for yourself in game, you'll need to fast travel to this location on your map, not far from the Mantis on Kobo. And when you get here, you'll want to run this route that I'll speed up for you, because you will be shimmying down this cave for a very long time until you reach this wonderful site. But moving on from our French wampa here, there's a nice callback to the Empire Strikes Back film in regard to the description of the scoundrel outfit in the customization menu. And if we just zoom in here, it says that this outfit is preferred by stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herders, which is what Leia says in the film. Listen to this.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Very good indeed. There's also a nice nod to a specific quote from Yoda in the game as well, and that's when you end up helping a pit droid lift his ship from the tar pit. And when you do, you'll pick up an achievement called There Is No Try, which is what Yoda says to Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. So take a listen to this.
Do or do not. There is no try.
And I think that this whole quest is almost mirroring that same scene with Luke and the X-Wing in the film as well, which is a very nice touch. Now, there's even more references to the films in this game in terms of ships and cool locations that you may be familiar with. The first being the Outlander Club, which Anakin and Obi-Wan entered in the Attack of the Clones, with Obi-Wan famously dropping some epic foreshadowing here. So listen to this as well.
Why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?
Don't say that, Master.
And you can actually see this club on Coruscant during your playthrough of the first mission on the same planet. And if you missed it, here is the location of that in-game. Now, in the same club during the film, we get a quick clip of the Nooner Ball, which is an American football-like sport, with the Nooner species being used as the actual ball, which we can also see advertised on several billboards around Coruscant. So great attention to detail from the devs there. Now, sticking on Anakin and Obi-Wan a little while longer, you can also find the XJ6 airspeeder on Coruscant at this specific location, as well as outside Rambler's Reach, which is the very same speeder that the dynamic duo used during the famous bounty hunter chase scene through the city, which is pretty cool. Now, I'll tell you what else is cool, and that's a few nice nods to Jedi Fallen Order, the first game, where if you travel to Fort Carlin and run this route I'm running right now, which I'll speed up for you, you can actually jump into the execution pit to fight Ogdo, who is a very difficult boss and who has reprised himself in this game as well. In fact, when you do defeat him, you'll pick up the poncho cosmetic, and make sure you interact with the frog not too far from that chest, because when you travel back to Doma's shop, you'll now be able to interact with the very same frog sitting next to her. And when you do, it will reveal a hidden force tear where you'll need to defeat 2 Ogdos. And speaking of combat, a cool tip that I didn't notice at all until Jason DeHarris, the game director, mentioned it on Twitter, and that is the small dots in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, which actually mean different difficulty settings. So whenever you're watching a streamer or gameplay on YouTube, you'll know what playthrough difficulty that person is currently playing on, with Grandmaster being 2 dots. Now, if you head into the Mantis ship, you'll also come across the Jedi holocron containing a list of all the locations of Force-sensitive children across the galaxy, Cal famously destroying it in the first game and keeping it on the ship, clearly as some sort of memento from the first game. Now, if you've played through the story of Jedi Survivor, you may have come across Rick, the door technician, who is arguably one of the hardest bosses in video game history. He charges towards you whilst you're on the Nova Garon planet, and is a nice Easter egg reference to Adam Driver's performance of Kylo Ren on Saturday Night Live, where he was the undercover boss called Matt the Radar Technician, which is simply excellent. Now, an interesting inclusion by the devs at Rambler's Reach is Guido, a Troder tome species that has no arms or legs. In fact, Claude is of the same species as Guido, who was in the Rise of the Skywalker film and became an internet meme for his unimpressed reactions throughout the film, which ended up being called the live slug reaction. And with Guido complaining and disliking almost everybody in Jedi Survivor, I think that's a very nice inclusion there. And speaking of which, in the cantina, you will come across this creature called Auromae Iselo, who has appeared in the Solo film and the Mandalorian and Boba Fett TV series. But the cool backstory behind this character is that this creature was drawn by Jake Lunt Davies' son, who was a creature concept artist for the latest trilogy. In fact, Auromae Iselo is an anagram of his and his son's name combined, and the devs are making him more mainstream here in this game. So I think that's a really nice addition there. And that brings me really nicely onto some additional details that you may have missed during your playthrough, with one of the first being an interaction you can have with BD1 outside the storyline. Now, to get this to trigger, all you need to do is hold down the bottom D-pad button on your controller, and you'll then see Cal fist bump BD1 over his shoulder, which is a nice emote. In fact, if you keep Cal idle long enough, so just go AFK from your console computer while the game is running, he will deconstruct his lightsaber, which is such an awesome animation to see in game, but it's quite rare because I stood there for about 30 minutes or so and I only saw him spin his blaster like he's in some sort of Red Dead Redemption game, which is cool, but I didn't get the deconstruction lightsaber bit, so hopefully you'll be more lucky, and thanks to Nika for this footage here. But speaking of your lightsaber, make sure you don't overlook the customization options back at the workbench with the crossguard saber specifically, as you can change the angle of the vents and also the sounds of each saber by flicking back and forth between the menus to review which one sounds better to you. Now, if you're enjoying the video so far, please do leave a very swift like down below. It genuinely really helps me out on YouTube, so thank you very much. And a big thank you to the channel's first ever sponsor, NORDVPN, who slid into my DMs and said, "Hey, Andy, can we sponsor your video?" And I said, absolutely, because I've been a paying customer of Nord before I even started making YouTube videos a couple years ago. I think they've got a solid bit of kit here, which I use daily, and they've even got a better deal that I'm going to run you through in just a moment. Because if you're not using a VPN online right now, what are you doing, you silly goose? You need to be doing so, because it keeps all of your data secure and encrypted, and it allows you to browse the internet completely anonymously. Now, one of the best things I like about Nord is that they have 5,000 plus servers, so you can teleport yourself around the globe depending upon where you want to go, which means if you live outside the UK and you want to watch some quality British television, and I don't blame you, by the way, you can now do so. All you need to do is whip up Nord, apparate yourself to London, and when you do arrive in the British Isles, it'll be a milk, no sugar, thank you very much. So if you sign up using the nordvpn.com/AndyReloads link, you'll get 4 months free on a 2-year plan. You'll also get a hefty discount depending upon where you are in the world, and they're also offering you a 30-day money-back guarantee. So no bamboozles here. I genuinely recommend it. I definitely think it's worth a perusal from yourself, and big thanks to Nord for sponsoring the video, as it helps me get closer to making content for you full time. Now, you may have come across this gigantic monster-sized bird during your playthrough, and upon releasing it, it will fly around the map and over Rambler's Reach every now and then. Well, the great thing about this is you can actually interact with it after the quest is complete, and to do so, you'll need to head to this location on your map. Now, after you climb up the Piazza Nest using the balloon traversal mechanic, you'll want to approach this bird, and when you get close enough, you'll then want to use your Confusion Force Power ability to make the bird turn into an ally. And when it does come around to the weight of the Force, it will pick you up and drop you across the other side of the map. And I think the whole inclusion of this bird in-game is perhaps a nice nod to the Shio bird from Kashyyyk in the first game. And while you're up there, make sure you pick up a Priorite Shard in this location, as it all adds up. Now, there's also a couple recruits that you can bring back to Rambler's Reach for a couple benefits that took me too long to come across. The first being the Jawas, and even if you're only a mild Star Wars fan, they should be familiar to you through their consistent features throughout all films and Star Wars media. They're well known for being scavengers and top quality mechanics, so when you do bring them back to the settlement, which you can do so by heading to the Bygone Settlement meditation point and then speedrunning this route I'm taking now with a couple Force dashes thrown in, you'll be able to save them from the Bedlam Raiders, and they'll end up repairing several buildings back at Rambler's Reach which contain multiple chests and cosmetic items for Cal. You can also recruit the robot T1N8, who goes on to repair even more buildings for you back at Rambler's Reach with some more juicy loot, and you can find him in the underground phone queue cabins just by heading into the basement, which is another really easy way to pick up some nice cosmetic appearances in game. And while we're on the topic of robots, when you do return to the saloon, you'll walk past this droid poster on the wall, which is a nice nod to the WA-7 waitress droid from the Attack of the Clones film. So even more great details from the devs there. Now, you can also get your hands on a rare and well-hidden lightsaber on Kobo, and I'm not talking about the Santari Kryze High Republic lightsaber, which, while I'm on the topic, actually, you can get by force pulling a local roller mine and throwing it at the wall in this cave. But there's another secret lightsaber hidden away in the Southern Reach, which you can get to by fast traveling to the meditation point of the same name, and then you'll want to stand here and wait for the Toronto shell to move his head across to the platform you're standing on, and this is when you want to use the Confusion Force ability again to tame it, which will then allow you to jump onto its tusks so you can be transported to the opposing platform. And when this happens, it will take you to a previously inaccessible area known as the Winding Ravine, and while you run through exploring it, you'll uncover the Hunter lightsaber, which also results in completing the gorgeous secret rumor if you happen to have it, which can be picked up in the cantina, of course. Now, another one of my favorites and most unexpected appearances in this game is when the notorious bounty hunter Boba Fett jetpacks himself into the world of Cal Kestis, which you can experience for yourself by completing all bounty contracts off Cage back in the saloon. And while you are at that cantina, check out the miniature model version of Jabba the Hutt's sail barge, which you may remember from the Return of the Jedi film, and funnily enough is where Boba Fett found himself in that Sarlacc pit thanks to Luke Skywalker. But what I found really interesting in game is when you proactively speak to Boba Fett after the quest is completed. He says this:
"I know, Jedi. I know what you are capable of, and I do not pity your fate."
Which is perhaps a nice reference to when he saw Mace Windu kill his father Jango Fett and has never seen them in a favourable light since that. Now, he's of course voiced by Tamara Morrison in the game, who is the same actor who plays him in the TV series, which I really appreciate, and has got me thinking about more potential crossovers here, because over a year ago, Ewan McGregor had an interview with Jimmy Kimmel where he said all the timelines have to match up from the TV shows to the movies all the way through to video games. And apart from the pre-order cosmetic bonus, that being the hermit outfit, which is of course inspired by the new Obi-Wan TV show, which by the way has his general armor shoulder pads from the Clone Wars visible on his backpack, which is a great detail. But I do believe we've got a few more nods to Obi-Wan in Survivor here, and that's because Nika found this really convincing Force echo that sounds very similar to Obi-Wan himself. Give this a listen.
I wonder if one must possess the Force to enter these holy sites.
These sands hold the wisdom of all those who walked them centuries ago.
Remarkable. This was worth the journey, my friend.
Now, the location of that echo is here on your map if you want to check it out for yourself. And this could just be a voice actor which sounds like Ewan McGregor, but that's quite an odd choice to make unless you were purposefully hinting at Obi-Wan perhaps visiting Jeddah at some point in his lifetime. This is compounded by the fact that the hidden path is at the core of this Jedi Survivor story and is also introduced in the Obi-Wan series. So I think this is the first of many teasers to come with perhaps Cal Kestis and Obi-Wan in their own live action series together. I would really love to see it. Now, I've got another Star Wars Jedi Survivor video for you just like this, which is filled with more tips and tricks and secrets. So click the video on your screen right now to get even more out of this awesome game, and I'll see you there in just a second. But if you're still here, my huge thank you to Nika, who has helped me scour the game to get the best info for you. Coffee is on her, and I'll see you in that next video.